Well, welcome back to the Experts Desk. We saw those trivia, and I have to say I knew every one of those, and don't say I didn't. Okay, I didn't, but I knew a couple of them. Anyway, so we do have Meet Makers versus Curse coming up. It's not going to be on the main stage, unfortunately. It's going to be in the back where they are playing, just so it's quicker on setup times. But Meet Makers versus Curse. Let's get into that. You have actually played against Curse NA in China.
Yeah.
How did that kind of pan out for you guys?
We won the game, and they weren't too well prepared. I hope they changed something up with the new AP mid.
Yeah, well, yeah, Nijak unfortunately couldn't come, so Rux has to come in. But as Panky was saying, not necessarily going to be in that mid lane. It could switch up with how Bruisers, as we saw in last game, they actually set their mid lane bottom. Sorry. Anyways, we do have them going to get into the lobby very shortly. But so what do we kind of expect here? Like we were saying before, Meet Makers, they have the qualifiers coming up. Curse just coming off of that, where they did qualify. Any special strats we're going to see?
Meet Makers is a very strong mid laner. Charu, I expect to see a very good game from him, like always. And Curse, I'm pretty excited, like if they came up with anything new after Season 3 qualifiers, because obviously they can't bring the same strats again.
All right, well, I mean, we don't have any player sheets for this, but key players, who do you guys have for Meet Makers? I mean, Charu in Intel Extreme Masters Singapore, amazing Katarina. We saw Mackler at Intel Extreme Masters Cologne, did an amazing job with his AD carries. Who do you guys have pinned for your key player?
For me, it's definitely Charu. He's, in my opinion, always the key player for Meet Makers and one of the best APs in Europe.
It's a little bit, I don't want to say stereotypical, but you pick your AP and your AD carries. You've got Mackler, you've got Charu, two of the strongest, most powerful members of the MWN lineup. Yes, that's what their jobs are. They're there to get all the kills, to do all the damage, to clean everything up, and to effectively take home all the glory, like you would have a sports style scoring all the goals or winning all the points. But yeah, they are the pivotal guys in this team. Providing you can set these guys up, get them strong, get them into positions they need to be, they will do all the work you need them to do. So providing IEM can get them there, they should be able to carry them through.
Yeah, Cologne, they were one of those teams where we used to see them really early game aggression, good steal GEU they did. In their second game, I can't remember if it was CJ Entis or not, they actually played really passive. They farmed up, they went to late game, so you kind of can't pin them into one thing. But for Curse, we do have Voyboy in the top lane, actually played an amazing Olaf. I'm sure everyone saw that video already. Who do you guys have pinned for their key players?
Voyboy will definitely be one of the key players. I mean, their mid lane changed up, probably won't do as much as mid lane of Meet Makers. So I would expect Voyboy to do most part of the work.
What about you, Panky?
Voyboy St. Vicious, that kind of combination is going to be a big thing. Obviously, we've seen Voyboy pull out some very interesting new strategies, usually Katarina top lane with our Warmogs. Yeah, that's a big thing, which I know a lot of people are looking forward to and hoping to see here. Myself might be one of them. I'd like to see that in action again. St. Vicious has got a wider range of champions, still loves Shyvana, even though a lot of people not necessarily agreeing with him now, so there's a possibility he might bring that out and show us something new. And as we said, we don't know too much about Rux in his mid lane, don't know too much about his AP, so it could be all their strategies are revolved around him right now and doing everything they can to try and make that work. So it could be a completely different Curse that we're about to see.
Well, we talked a little bit before we went to commercial break about, banning out certain champions versus banning out overpowered champions. Meet Maker is very well known for Makade actually having Udyr in the jungle. He's a big fan of that. One of the, I think, only ones left that actually runs him. You might be able to correct me if I'm wrong there. And then on Curse, I mean, yeah, we saw Voyboy's Olaf. We saw last game how well Flame did in that top lane with Olaf. Do we think we're going to see, targeted bans this time, or do you think we're just going to see, let's get rid of the overpowered champions?
I probably think that Olaf is going to be banned for Curse because St. Vicious plays him a lot, and if Voyboy also plays him a lot, that's a safe ban pretty much. And besides that, there are a lot of bans that kind of have to be made, like Eve, Shen, Kha'Zix, so there's not too much room at the moment.
And we say Katarina is one of Voyboy's big champions here at the moment, and she's just ridiculously strong, played by anyone sort of thing. She can snowball very, very hard. She's got a consistent lane phase. So to see her banned wouldn't surprise me, again, against any of the teams in this tournament, just to see her on that ban list. So that's another one that I am expecting to see pop up in there. But as you mentioned, that's a big list of possible bans. Yeah. So some of those are going to have to be left open. And if any of them are ignored, Kha'Zix, Katarina's, Olaf, if we don't see them banned, we will definitely see them picked.
Yep. And actually, I want to ask you this question. Have you, have you actually been practicing against Meet Makers for Season 3 coming up?
We haven't been scrimming, but we have been looking them up, of course.
Is this going to be one of those games you're like, I'll take some notes, send those back to my team?
Kind of.
All right, well, we are just waiting a couple of members of Meet Makers to get in here, as they are, doing some good well, some friendly trash talk, I'll say. As you do see, Element just spamming WoW, and I saw him really at breakfast today, and he was just, you know, he looked really relaxed. He had his little phone out. He was playing some balloon tower defense game.
Okay.
You know,
that game is incredible.
It is pretty good.
I may have spent too much time through university playing that game instead of studying, but it's awesome. Bloons tower defense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they did just come from the qualifiers. You know, how does being tired really affect you? How does being exhausted affect you? Because they did fly directly from Vegas, well, not directly, but Vegas to here. That's a long flight.
Yeah.
It's, you know, at least 12 hours. You know, how does that kind of really set you up for the match?
I think it's overrated. It doesn't affect you a lot. As a gamer, you play through so many nights. You can't really argue that a 10-hour flight where you probably also sleep makes you play bad.
I wish I could sleep like 12 hours a day right now.
No, I really think it doesn't matter too much, and especially if you have a lot of offline experience like those guys do, you get used to it.
Well, Rux, I mean, you were at IPL 5. You saw him got to play support. Is he one of those players that is used to offline events? Like, is he comfortable, or is he still a little bit shaky?
I don't want to say he's used to them. He hasn't been to too many, especially compared to some of the other names in this lineup. But he did seem to really settle in at IPL 5. It didn't seem to phase him at all. He just took it all in his stride, played his own game. And it didn't go bad for him. I mean, obviously they didn't come out and win it, but it wasn't a factor in their loss. He's been to a couple more since then. He was at the LCS qualifiers. He didn't play, admittedly, but he was there. He still got that atmosphere settled in. I think this is still easily the biggest crowd he's come up against, so that might have something to do with it. But ultimately, they're backstage. They haven't really, well, they're not sitting up there with Gambit and Zuby Blaze, where they can't see all these with their own eyes, and they're just seeing it by the stream, by the pictures.
Oh, they're going to hear it.
It should be much easier. Yeah, they're going to hear it. But it'll be easier for them to shut it out. Again, they've, of course, soundproof headsets and things once that all gets started underway. So they'll shut it out. They'll play their own game. And like with before, I think he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to this game. I mean, this is the second game of the day. We still have 3 more to come after this. And, gosh. Sorry, I'm just reading their chat. I should probably not look at that anymore, as we do have all the members finally in the lobby. But one thing we can talk about is, you know, for the Intel Extreme Masters Season 7, Mietschmecker's already pre-qualified for the finals in Hanover, Germany at CBIT. We do have Gambit Gaming already qualified as well. This could be a chance for Curse to get in. I believe they might be attending Intel Extreme Masters Brazil as well, or sorry, Sao Paulo as well.
Yeah.
You know, they have a lot at stake as well.
That's true. But Meteor Makers is still way too unknown for how good they are, so
yeah,
they always want to prove something, like every other team would as well.
I'm actually really excited because they have a lot of momentum built up now. I mean, after these 2 events, they're starting to make a name for themselves. They have Season 3 coming up very soon. It's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen. But we are finally in the picks and bans, as we do see Elise banned out very quickly, and right off of that, we see Curse banning out Kha'Zix.
Yeah, not unexpected, I'd say.
Unexpected bans, yeah, exactly what we saw before. Zed, it's the first time we've seen him come out of the tournament. Obviously, the last IEM was the Zed patch, but he was globally banned. So this is the first time we've seen a chance for him to be played. Gambit and Zuby Blaze completely ignored him, just left it out of the picture. Now he's banned, but Citizen, why is he banned? Can you explain that to us?
Zed?
Yeah.
There are a lot of different, very good strategies with him, and I think he's also very decent on many lanes, and also in 1v2. What we've seen right now in Europe is a lot of Zeds on top lane, especially Meteor Makers is known for it. So I'm not quite sure why they do this ban, but maybe they've watched Curse and scouted them and saw some strats around Zed.
Yeah, explain it. Of course, he's got that very high burst, his ultimate, just amplifying all the damage you do and just popping it. But our bans are complete. Evelyn, Twisted Fate, the last 2 from Curse, and there is that Olaf coming out of that, where exactly as you predicted. But again, as you mentioned, those champions that have not seen that ban option, the very strong champions, Katarina's there, and it's not quite selected yet by Comp, but he's thinking about it. They might want it, and she does work very nicely alongside that Mumu.
Yeah. It's pretty similar to Misfortune in that aspect. Katarina, it works amazingly well with Arm ults, and if you put another couple of AoEs in it, it works perfectly.
Yeah, so she's just gonna throw the bouncing blade around, use that Sinister Steel, take everyone down low. Everyone's gonna be locked in a Mumu's ult. They're not gonna be able to cancel her own ultimate. She starts spinning, and then it's just Shimpo after Shimpo with the resets, mopping up all these low health champions that are left. And that's just 2 of the champions. Kirsten have 3 others to choose from. And it's down up to IEM. What do they go with? What do they do to shut her down? And the other question, is it Rux in the mid lane, or is that going to be Voibo in the top lane? They don't know yet.
I'm still surprised that Shen is still open. Teams don't seem to value him too high in this tournament, which isn't really consistent with what I've seen from Korea and other tournaments. So I guess Meteor Makers should probably pick him up.
Okay, you're a bit of a mid lane, a little bit different, but Janna. She's been coming back in over the moment through a lot of support players.
Janna?
Yeah, through solo queue more than so much tournaments, but she would work very nicely against both Amu and Katarina in a combo. Amu comes in with a bandage toss, you immediately knock him straight back out again with that ultimate. And she's going to work okay with Misfortune down in the bottom lane. They have picked up the Zyra, so there's a possibility that's the support now, but which would be your preference?
I think Janna is quite new again to the European supports. We've just started picking her up again, and it's always like in these situations in front of such a crowd, you always want to pick something you're comfortable with. And I guess if Meet Makers didn't practice her, they won't go for it long.
Well, the thing is, you have to remember is that Libic is a very good Zyra player. We saw in Extreme Master Singapore, he did an amazing job. He had more kills than his AD carry actually. It was like 4-0 and 3. So he's playing something he's kind of comfortable with. The Wukong though is actually kind of throwing me off. We did see a bit of Wukong when it was Fnatic versus SK Telecom, when Reaper was actually running Wukong mid, and I know Fnatic's actually been preparing for that. I know they've been practicing it quite a bit, but we do see that Ezreal and that Lulu locked in. What's your thoughts on that?
No thoughts. It's a solid bot lane, like nothing special there. I think like Wukong will be way more interesting if he's sent top or mid, and I guess it's probably mid lane usually.
McCarthy swapping from that K the last pick. I mean, Charu had it to start with. Charu, if he picked it himself, argue you're going to take it mid, fine. Yeah. But they specifically took it off of him, and McCarthy's now hovering on himself. So why would McCarthy pick it from Charu? I don't think that KO's going mid. That KO's either going top or it's going jungle, which is something we actually saw I'm So Fresh from Millennium do quite a couple of times. So it's very, very viable. We've seen some very impressive scores from him with that championship.
If I'm not mistaken, I was talking to Fury from one of the esports. Unfortunately, he's a little too young to participate, but Charu's been practicing Jace mid. Yeah. So we could actually see that Jace go middle, we could see the Wukong go top. And Kale jungle, I mean, he's really strong.
He is.
Or sorry, she, I guess, if you want to say it the right way.
You look at the AoE damage on that too. You've got the poke coming out from Jace, taking everyone down low, very big AoE on that. You've then got a Zyra ultimate comes in, huge AoE damage and a knockup. And to keep them on that while the knockup channels, you've got Wukong spinning around, knocking everyone up again. So it's a double knockup, and Wukong's ultimate is one of the highest damage abilities in the game. And if you can keep everyone inside that for its full duration, that's a lot of hurt. So that's a very strong combo, just those three. And then you got Misfortune ultimate over the top of it with a Black Cleaver, as I'm sure we'll see her go with, reducing the armor. It's a physical damage ultimate from Wukong. She's going to shred their way through this curse lineup.
Yeah, we see a pretty different approach here. Other teams usually try to counter Amumu by having some knockbacks like Gragas and Janna, but what they are trying to do is kind of inside of Amumu or kill the enemy team by having Wukong as like a barrier and Misfortune in the back firing through it, and they can still protect somebody with Kale, so I really like the idea, and if they execute it well, they have a definite advantage.
Yeah, it's no longer Curse the Sad Bullet Time, now it's like Knockup of Bullet Time or something like that, because you know, you hold them there in place long enough with those knockups that your ultimate's going to full channel. And the thing is that Curse, they don't really have anyone to jump to. Yeah, Katarina can kind of get there, but it's going to have a hard time unless you build that Warmog, which, I mean, we expect everybody to kind of go for. And we do see Ziggs, which Rux, I mean, how often do we see Ziggs middle?
Seen it like, I think once since Christmas, seen it one guy play it. It didn't do too bad. It wasn't particularly amazing, but I mean, Citizen, you're
I mean, I'm a big fan of it. It used to be my main.
You look really excited
champ.
right now.
Yeah, I do. I played it in OG in Korea, and it's one of my favorite champs. But in this situation, I don't like it. They have too much tunnel, and against Wukong, I don't see how he should even survive mid lane.
And the thing is, they need, you know, they have Katarina, yeah, you know, they can do the ultimate the entire time, then Mumu ulti, but you kind of need someone to do damage as well to get those resets off.
I would much rather see some mobile champ or Karthus maybe. But Ziggs is way too volatile. Like, if he gets tunneled, and I mean, anything of the enemy team can kill Ziggs if they get to him.
Well, you also have to keep in mind his ultimate. I mean, he could easily hit top lane or bot lane with it, depending on what kind of happens.
The ult isn't really that effective on Ziggs.
All right, well, we do have teams actually loading in. So, guys, early game, actually, well, not even early game. Who do you guys have taking this? Just based on picks.
I give it to Meet Makers pretty clearly.
Yeah, that Meet Makers combo, if they get that off, everything on top of each other, perfect combo. Kale ultimate down onto Misfortune. Curse are going to have a lot of trouble dealing with it. But same thing as we saw before, while that's a very strong combo, could be picked apart.
Yep, we're going to go to our lovely... Okay. As I hear the weird audio on our set, we're going to go to our lovely casters though, and
Makers here at the Intel Extreme Masters in Katowice. Joining me for this one is Jat. Jat, What are your thoughts? Interesting lineups.
Well, we heard from the guys that they were a little bit surprised with the Wukong pick and the Jungle Kale especially. That's the most interesting thing I've seen. There were actually 80 unique champions played throughout the OGN winter, and Wukong was not in that bunch. So this is definitely something new we're going to see from MYM, the local Polish team.
And we can never underestimate, I mean, it's a little bit of a different situation. I was going to talk about the crowd, but they're unfortunately playing off stage in the players area right now. But this crowd could certainly get them fired up and going for things. I think if this crowd cheered loud enough, they could probably still hear them over in the back area where they're going. Anyway, so in terms of the early game, what are you expecting to see here, Jack?
Well, from the looks of it, they're both just doing defensive formations. I'd say Curse is probably the favorite coming into this game, so it makes sense for them to be defensive. And then MYM took enough risks with their picks, to be honest. They're not really going to do anything crazy level 1.
Well, Meet Your Makers just waiting off by their red buff. Currently, we've got Misfortune down in that bottom tribus, Jace up at the top. A couple of wards down, defensive wards really from Meet Your Makers on this top side. The wards from Curse are pretty much that whole line set up there. As we talked about earlier, Curse are going to be starting off here as well by the Wolves.
And we're trying to make sense of the lanes actually right here, because we expected a mid Jace from the champion select, but Kuban of MYM is actually waiting up top, looking like he's going to be in a 1v2 with himself. And interrupted myself here, delayed invade, but they're walking through a Curse ward.
Yeah, through that ward, and that's why you just see the importance of those wards at this early stage. But will it be enough to stop, or will they be able to stop Meet Your Makers from taking away this blue buff? Will that force them then to move around on towards the Meet Your Makers blue buff? It certainly looks that way. It's going to go down.
They're just going to trade blue buffs straight up. Meet Your Makers got it for Jungle Kale, but then since there's only a 1v2 top lane, St. Vicious, as soon as they saw the 4 on the ward, ran straight for MYM's blue buff. So it's really just a slight advantage for MYM, but really not much gain.
Yeah, and we saw that blue buff going over on towards Amumu. We do have that bit of a lane switch going on there. We have Voyboy in this bottom lane. What do you fancy his chances there with Katarina against this AD carry support in the bottom?
It's really funny because so many teams refuse to 1v1 against Voyboy just because he's such a powerful laner, but Curses themselves have put them in this situation where he has to 1v2 bottom lane. He usually just sits back, farms for a little while, and then he'll wait for St. Vicious' ganks. I think he's going to be okay in this situation. Zyra MF is an extremely strong lane, but I feel like the skill of Voyboy is going to carry him through.
Kuban there, already taking some good damage in this top lane. Always hard to be against that Lulu with a slow, which I always like to more call a snare. That's how ridiculously strong that is coming out of Lulu. Could face some hard times in there. One lane that we didn't really touch on too much, this middle lane, Ziggs versus Wukong. It's not one that we have really statistically to back up, I think, in terms of how we analyze it, Jack.
This is not something we see very often. I mean, way back.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. Down in the bottom lane, we have got this gank coming down. Voyboy in all kinds of trouble, and that will be first blood now, Jack. We saw that time and time again at IPL. Why is it still happening?
Should have seen that coming, in all honesty. It was because the delayed invades threw off Curse's early ward placement. They just didn't actually see Mokati sneak in from the back, and it looks like Voyboy just got caught sleeping. Once he came around the back, he knew he was dead 100%. He didn't even burn flash, but taking this turret is actually going to be really huge for MYM.
Yeah, that turret going to be falling down here very quickly. They'll take it with this push that they've got going on there, and that means Katarina coming back with no turret in behind him, and that is a great start for the Poles here on home soil here in Katowice.
Yeah. So scratch what I said earlier about Voyboy being able to handle that lane, because he's been demolished in about 4 minutes. It's going to be really tough for him to come back from this one.
So what do they do to change this thing around now? Does he have to go into this top lane and go up against Kuban?
I think what Curse has to do is they need to try to get their tower killed as soon as possible, but you can see MYM's already trying to counter that by sending MF and Zyra up top as well. If they could trade turrets, it would be okay, but I just don't think they're going to be able to do that.
Well, they've started that damage coming in now onto this turret. Obviously, the poke coming out of that Jace Q with the acceleration gate as well will force Curse to back away somewhat. We'll see if any action comes in once that AD carry and support do come into this top lane, which Curse, in all right, should be ready to expect.
Once the turret goes down, you always see the AD carry and support swap over. Curse will not be surprised by this, but if they get any kind of snare, they might be able to jump on him. Let's see.
Yeah, we see the flashes coming in there. Cop maybe coming under focus. Actually, Kuban just getting slow there, but Cop is taking a lot of damage. Ignite running onto him, but he will stay safe. So only that 1 kill up till now, of course, in favor of Meet Your Makers. Let's take a quick look at the early CS there. The 280 carries 27 to 29. That is pretty much bang even. Middle lane also is very, very even, but as we go along, is that going to become more and more difficult for Rux in this middle with Ziggs?
I think he's going to be okay based on the matchup. I mainly think Saru is going to be looking to roam with that Wukong mid, try to make plays happen elsewhere, because engaging onto Rux is just a little too difficult. He's going to be saving his E that entire time and just topping away if Wukong tries to engage.
And we see those 3 men coming in, doing good damage onto this top turret. Ezreal and Lulu are coming back into that lane. In the meanwhile, Voivoy has finally got his chance to do a bit of farming in this bottom lane. He is actually ahead of what Jace currently has at 22 to 18, but Jace is now going to be going down into that solo lane as well. So things evening out somewhat now. Where's the next big play going to come out, do you think, from either of these teams, Jack?
I don't know if we're going to see another big play for a little bit here. Voivoy shoved out that lane so far, he knows he's going to have to get out of bot lane almost immediately. Maybe top lane, but probably not, just because that matchup both has a lot of range and a lot of poke. Makati, though, invading St. Vicious, we could see something right here.
Yeah, he's going to push in on the pressure here, but he needs to be careful. Zig's coming across here to cover, and that will mean Makata forced away. Lulu has come down, and we can see Wukong going to actually ultimate in here onto Elements. He is going to get exhausted. The root not quite landing, but he should have the damage here, Charu. Elements is going to go down, and that is the danger. Getting caught out there in the jungle. You mentioned that Charu is going to go wandering. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I think I missed it, but Elements was down a flash before that happened, so Saru really knew that he was going to try to roam up top. Just incredible pressure by Makatu into St. Vicious' jungle, really making that jungle kill work early.
Great stuff from Meet Your Makers. They're 1,400 gold ahead, 2-0 in kills, and of course they took that first turret down of the game as well. And top lane, well, that's becoming that bit more standard. Are they going to go for it? Yeah, that's the question, with Kale on those golems at the top. And actually the root has landed here on towards Cop. He will arcane shift away, but has he got the speed? Oh, the flash there, it comes out, but he is going to get taken down. There's another.
So the home team, MYM, really coming out hard for Curse. I mean, we know that Curse is without their main mid player, Nijaki. Rux had been practicing it coming into this event. Curse had just qualified for Season 3 in North America. Maybe they're just coming into this event a little sloppy because MYM is crushing them right now.
And we heard thoughts a little bit from Citizen Wayne in terms of traveling. You've done it yourself multiple times back in the day. Back in the day, it wasn't really that long ago.
Back in my day.
Back in your day, at least. But does it have an effect? I mean, Meet Your Makers, they're from Poland, they've come here to Katowice. That's not far. How is that coming from the West Coast like Curse?
It depends, actually, whether they got in yesterday or the day before, because many people were getting diverted from the Katowice airport and actually had to shuttle or take a bus 2 hours to get in. It's really tough for North American teams to make this trip. Maybe they're a little bit jet-lagged.
Well, currently Meet Your Makers are showing the solid play that we saw out of them from Intel Extreme Masters in Singapore, from Intel Extreme Masters Cologne, where, of course, they picked up second place as well, losing out there to SK Telecom. So, you know, first place to second place, I guess the numbers would dictate a third place here in Katowice, but in front of a home crowd, they are still looking very strong. And if what I've heard is correct, they've been practicing hardcore, especially for this event, but maybe even more importantly, going forward into those Season 3 European qualifiers.
And when you bring up those past results, MYM has actually done amazingly well in IEMs. And as far as European competition goes, recently, that's all they've really had access to. They weren't a part of the Season 2 regionals, and since then, they've really kind of been dominating. So maybe this early response by them, beating up Curse 3-0 with a 2,200 gold lead, isn't that big of a surprise, or shouldn't be.
Yeah, I've been talking about Meet Your Makers and their past results. Their first big one was way back in 2010. It feels like forever by now, where they finished second in the World Cyber Games,
was
an event which you actually played. Well? It was the same team outside of their top laner, Kubon, actually coming out. That was Kikis who played top lane for them there.
Wow. Well, that's a team that's been together for quite a while, and maybe they're just gelling now. This will be a great warm-up for them going into Season 3 qualifiers next weekend.
Oh. Who's going low there? It's actually down in the bottom here. Makata getting ganked out actually from St. Vicious and Voivoy. We are going to see the teleport coming down. There's the ulti coming out of Charu as well. Voivoy could well be in trouble from this one. Kubon comes in around the side. That Q through the acceleration gate, stealing the kill away. But it's a kill secured nonetheless. And here is St. Vicious just wanting to die to that tower. Meanwhile, in the middle, they got that action coming in. St. Vicious will go down to the tower. But that leaves Meet Your Makers at 5-1 now. They've got their AD carry and support in this mid lane. And
the big thing is going to be if they can shove down this turret before Curse can respawn. If they can get that 3 turret advantage, even if Curse is able to take this top one, getting the 3 outer turrets down this early gives you incredible map control.
10 minutes in, 15,500 gold to 13,000 gold, so that lead certainly substantial at this point, but there is the first turret of this game in favor of Curse, but Meet Your Makers are still pressuring you, and there's no immediate response actually from Curse in terms of this middle outer turret.
Yeah, they almost seem a little bit lost. Everyone St. Vicious executed himself, Voyboy died, and no one was able to rotate and cover mid. I almost feel like Comp and Elements should have rotated down to help that turret, but because they didn't, it cost them 3.
And that will put the gold lead up to 16, let's call it 17,000 to 14,500 for now. Charu just coming back down into this bottom lane. They've actually left middle there. Ziggs and Amumu between them probably won't be able to do too much damage on Salmon, but Voyboy is getting ready here. He's going to go out on towards Charu, but can he really go up against him? He's a level behind on this one. We can see Charu there just not able to keep up with him after that W is put down.
Yeah, we know Voyboy popularized the Warmog's Katarina very recently. It looks like he's going for a Sunfire Cape this game to try to match up better with the huge amount of physical damage that's going to be coming out of MIM. But even with the Chain Vest and Giant's Belt, he's nowhere close to being able to stand toe-to-toe with Charu's Wukong, who just has a Brutalizer at this point.
And it looks like, from Meet Your Maker's point of view, a Dragon may just be in order. There was a ward here down on this corner from Curse, but you can see the wards for Meet Your Makers are brilliant as well. They've got vision right up in towards that blue buff. They have the, they've got the sight of Curse now if they wanted to start this off.
And they seem like they would want to fight. They've gotten all the turrets down, so if they fight, Curse has no way to fall back.
Here we go, Charu going to ulti right into the middle. Lulu ulti put down on herself, but the bullet time comes across. Zyra ultimate in there as well. That's 2 kills coming down instantly, and I don't think they're finished just now. Cop could be in trouble. He needs to get himself away as quickly as possible. Arcane Shift not going to be up in time, and that is 3 kills for 0 in favor of the Poles of Meet Your Makers.
They already had the big advantage, and Curse just cornered themselves. That was a great initiation by Charu's Wukong, and they just wiped everyone of Curse out. They're going to get the Dragon on top of this, and they have a stranglehold on this early.
And this is the Meet Your Makers that we saw through the group stage at Intel Extreme Masters Cologne. They seemingly dominated everyone in that tournament when we were talking about the group stage, and this is a fantastic start from. We know that they're a team that plays very well under pressure, under momentum, which is quite strange considering that they're a team which everyone considers underdogs, but as we've said, their past results would say that they're definitely not an underdog team in any of these games.
And the biggest thing they're going to have to keep track of in this match at least is that they have all physical damage dealers, no APs, so everyone on Curse is going to be trying to stack armor. That's why I see the Sunfire Cape on Voyboy, the early Chain Vest on St. Vicious, but if they keep this up and get an early Black Cleaver, I don't think it's going to be a problem for them.
Well, we could certainly see that coming out. Misfortune already got the workings there, the Brutalizer. In fact, that would be the 3rd Brutalizer coming down for Meet Your Makers at this point of the game. So certainly feeling that they know what Curse are going to throw their way to try and counter this composition that they've got going. Let's take another rain check here on what's exactly going down with the grand scheme of things. 8-1 in kills with 13.5 minutes in there, 3-1 in turrets. There's about 22,000 gold, give or take, to 17,000. It's a very solid foundation in this first 15 minutes or so of the game.
And having a 4,500 gold disadvantage, like you said, at 14 minutes, is really far behind.
Voyboy here could be in a little bit of trouble, actually. Just did get rooted up on Meet Your Makers. A lot more concerned with making sure that they could take away that red buff, which, something that we saw Azubu Blaze doing to perfection in that last game. It is important and can't be underestimated.
This is just total control by MIM. Voyboy knew exactly where they were going there. No one on Curse could respond. You can see there's actually 5 MIM wards in Curse's jungle. 3 of them are pink wards, so Curse can't even out-ward their own jungle because the wards would just get killed afterwards. They know where absolutely everyone is. They killed the first 3 turrets. They've moved their ward line into Curse's territory, and they're just going to continue to put the pressure on. Honestly, Baron's up in 15 seconds. They might look to start controlling something like that early because they have so much control.
Yeah, I just switched to Fog of War for you guys at home there, and here in the audience, have a look at the minimap. And well, it tells a big story, to say the least, I think, from that one. Wukong here may be in a little bit of trouble if he's not careful. Actually will get caught out here somewhat. He's got elements really low, and this is something that Panky touched on. The damage is insane. Can he finish it off, though? No, not quite. And Charu now, maybe the one in trouble. Acceleration gate is down.
Wow.
That will save his life. Here comes the bomb from Rux, but that's not going to be enough either. Now Makata, the one in a little bit of trouble, will go down, but the Zyra ulti will knock him up. There is bullet time. Rux will be forced to flash over the top of the wall, and that will be a 1-for-1, very low HP across the board there. You can see 3 from Curse, flash in red. Makla not finished just yet, though. He gets the kill onto Amumu. Actually used his cleanse there to get out of that stun underneath the tower, and that's another fantastic win.
Saru actually got Kale ulted as the Ziggs ult bomb would hit him, and he was only alive that long because the Hexdrinker shield kept him there. So the fact that he got that alive, out of that situation alive, was incredible. 2-for-1, not the best. He shouldn't have been caught in that position, but the recovery was quite impressive.
That leaves us at 10-2 in kills, and we're around about a 5,000 gold lead for Meet Your Makers. Once again, we see that damage coming out of the queue. Elements being forced a little bit low. It looks like the rest of Meet Your Makers here are going to be quite happy to split off into their individual lanes, pick up as much CS as they can whilst doing that. Wukong in the top. Elements still wandering around pretty low on health, but he wants to get that vision back. That's something that we already touched on before, that Curse have been lacking a little bit.
And he still, without the Ruby Sightstone, isn't going to be granting that much vision. St. Vicious only has the 1 ward as well. Everyone's trying to pitch in, but it's so hard to regain vision once you've lost those first 3 towers, especially if you're not strong enough to retaliate if you have someone invading into your jungle. And right now, Curse is in both of those situations.
You see Makata there just taking away the wolves where he can. Wukong moving his way through. He's actually stepped over a ward there, so Charu, now he has to be careful, but at the end of the day, he's Wukong as well. We saw how he could get away from that fight earlier on. And once that ultimate comes into play, it can turn things very, very quickly, especially when, the Zyra ulti comes down on top, then the bullet time as well, and those fights can switch in an instant.
And right now, we can see MIM trying the 5-man siege up mid. They have such a big lead. They're really trying to force Curse on. They got about half the turret on that last push, but that was when Curse only had 3 members there. I don't expect Curse to just let this turret fall. They're going to try really hard to hold this. If Curse is to fight, they'd want to fight here with a really good St. Vicious ult, but it's going to be really tricky for them to do anything because they're so far behind.
There was another good Q coming over the top of the wall from Jace. Meet Your Makers still trying to push in there. That's a nice ward put down from Curse just to try and give him that vision, but, well, it's Jace. The range on that Q is going to be catching them out time and time again, and just wondering if they can really hold up to that, the way things are going as well. There is another one coming out from Cubon. This time they dodge it with that vision that was granted as Charu actually went over the top there in towards Elements, used his Ghost to try and get away. There is the bandage toss coming in, but Charu just going to decoy. There is the ulti. He's in a great position as well. Bullet time comes across. St. Vicious is going to go down from this one. The ultimate out of Kale, not enough to save him. Cop is very, very low as well, but they're just about going to survive with so little health from that one. You see Cop and Voivo on the right-hand side of your screen, very low. There's the inhibitor turret, and most probably this inhibitor as well.
I love that initiation. The spinning Wukong with a Kale ult on top of him devastated Curse entirely. They threw everything on Asari trying to get rid of that giant monkey, and they just couldn't do it. They got destroyed again, that first inhibitor at 18 minutes. They're in so much trouble right now.
What do they need to do, Jack? I mean, that's a bit of an open-ended question, obviously, in a game like this, but you look down the scores, 2-0-4 with Jace. You've got Wukong 1-0-4, Misfortune 4-0-5. That's a lot of gold right now. 2,650 gold that is actually currently sat on their Makla. And Voivo's actually come down here towards Dragon. They're not super healthy, not got a load of mana, and they're simply going to back away.
In all honesty, this is panic mode for Curse right now. They need to hope MIM makes a huge mistake, or Curse needs to take some dumb risks, so to speak. Like, they would need to rush a Baron, or rush into that Dragon fight and hope to catch people low. If they are not going to do those things, they have to turtle better than they've been turtling so far. But with how the last fight turned on, they don't really have an answer. for the spinning Wukong with the Kayle ult. They can't diversify their damage enough. Voyboy can't even get to the back line of MIM. So really, it's looking a little hopeless for them right now.
And we've just seen second Black Cleaver being picked up here by Misfortune. There is a teleport actually coming out of Charu to save this outer turret on the bottom. And, Curse have only managed that one single turret so far, and that was in the top lane where, in terms of that 2 versus 1 at the start, Meet Your Makers won that hands down, no question whatsoever. And you can, I guess, really put it down to that gank early on through the tri-bush, which, as we said, I think about 4,000 times at IPL when it kept happening game after game after game. You've got to expect that in that kind of setup.
It caught Curse by surprise, and especially when they're the ones with the Lulu Ezreal, that's almost your prototypical 2v1 push and kill the tower. The fact that they lost their turret first in that setup really put them for a loop. But aside from that, that was completely independent of the jungle invade that happened early with Kayle and Wukong, where they were able to get the kill again onto Elements. So it's really not just that thing in the bottom lane. Every lane has been working quite well for MYM thus far.
Solid performance. I've used that already in the last game with Azubu Blaze.
That was a more than solid performance last game.
Well, Meet Your Makers are certainly looking like an informed team again, as we see them coming into, their third Intel Extreme Masters event in a row. They finished first in Singapore, second in Cologne. We'll see what they can do here in Katowice. Still a long way to go in this group stage, whichever way you look at it, but they are now pushing in on towards this inhibitor turret. You can see they're almost half HP of COP taken away by one single Jace Q.
They are looking so strong, especially considering with the double Black Cleaver, Wukong ult or MF ult, they're going to be shredding that 25% of everyone's armor pretty much the instant they initiate. And there's not even that much armor to shred, to be honest, on Curse right now. So if they can get a team fight of any kind, that is MYM, they're going to take it here.
Kuvan just losing a lot of health, but Voyboy could be in trouble. He's got the Lulu ultimate on him, but the bullet time ripping through him. Here comes Charu in there as well. Wow. And that is Makla unstoppable. Charu is going to finish off Rooks. Ultimate was put down there by Ziggs, but that is going to be 4 kills swept underneath for Meet Your Makers. That inhibitor turret is going to go down. The inhibitor as well. And, 17 seconds. They could do a lot of damage to the Nexus turret.
They might just go for ending because they just killed 4. It's 22 minutes in. Curse may as well throw in the towel at this point if the turrets aren't even down because they got completely obliterated by MYM there.
15-2. The Nexus being focused down right now, and Meet Your Makers on home soil here at Intel Extreme Masters Katowice are going to sweep Curse aside in their first group stage. Brilliant play, and something that is going to make their fans certainly happy here, being the home team in Group A.
I mean, we know that Curse didn't have their full starting roster, but the fact that they came off so much practice from the North American Regionals, replaced Nijaki with Rux, and then just got stomped on by MYM, that's impressive play. So now it's looking like Azubu Blaze and MYM are the strong favorites in this group.
Yeah, I mean, we still can't count Gambit out there. The fact that they were playing against, what did we say, super solid Azubu Blaze in their first game of the day. I mean, Gambit versus Meet Your Makers surely will be an amazing game. Meet Your Makers versus Azubu Blaze. Curse, along with Gambit as well, they've got a lot to prove right now. As you said, not their full lineup here. I'm sure they're pretty exhausted, to be honest with you, after practicing so hard, moving into the Season 3 North American qualifiers, which obviously they came out and qualified from. This might be that little bit of a step too far for them in terms of fatigue and what have you, but still, they're still in it. It's just one game down. We've got plenty more to come. Yeah,
that is going to be something Curse really has to recover from, because to come all the way here and to get crushed in the first day would be devastating. And to think, when you looked at this group, they just lost to the team that's not ex-Moscow 5 or Azubu Blaze.
That was the game that I think they would have been saying we could have.
Yeah, they were so relaxed in the lobby. They were chit-chatting up. Not ready for that, that's for sure.
Not ready for it. Well, I think that's enough from our side of things. Jarrett, it's been a pleasure. We've got plenty more games that we're going to be doing today throughout the next 3 days. So we're going to throw it over to the expert desk to Panky, Citizen Wayne, and of course, Jason.
Welcome back to the expert desk. John, I think obliterated might have been an understatement a little bit right there, because that was just as stompy as that first game. And guys, tell us what you thought.
Well, I kind of expected them to win, but that was pretty damn obvious how they won. So, I don't know, surprisingly strong, even stronger than I expected.
Like we went over it in the Champ Select, looking down that list of champions that MYM have, that perfect execution, the Wukong ult, the Zyra ultimate, Misfortune ultimate, and they had multiple chances to get that off with perfect execution in the Cursed jungle, down and around the dragon, and every time it just went right in their favor and took the game way too far out of Curse's hands.
And the funny thing was, it wasn't necessarily even the team fights that was the big deal. It was mostly just the early game action they were doing. We fortunately got another Bug Spot error, so we can't really put any replays up, but we could talk about what happened if you want to kind of just, give us a story of how it led up to that first blood.
Yes, I mean, that first blood we want to look at was obviously lane top down from Curse. Voidboy was down in the bottom lane, up against the AD carry support combo from MYM. Then had that jungle Kale from Makati come around behind the turret and dive him, and obviously they then followed up and took the turret down. Can you explain to us exactly why that was so bad for Curse?
There's always this one timing where the two people lane pushes into tower and tries to accumulate a very big wave. And if the jungler arrives at this point, it doesn't matter which jungler it is or which bot lane it is, you just die. And they didn't ward properly. They warded the lane side river brush, while they should have definitely warded their blue entrance to see if he's coming. So they didn't even see Kyle coming, and the death there kind of ruins a lot.
Yeah, Joe was mentioning during the cast that, IPL 5, they saw that happen all the time. And I know that's actually one of his pet peeves is you know it's going to happen. You should expect that to happen. And if you let their team capitalize on that, you're going to lose the lane. You're going to lose that turret. And then what do we see next, Panky, out of that?
Next was about 7-minute mark. It's a very similar situation. MYM, after taking that bottom turret, switched the lanes up again. Put their AD carry support. Libic and Makler went in the top lane. Elements had just been caught out in the jungle. Wukong found him, Charu roaming around, found him, killed him 1v1 more or less in there. And that opened up top lane. Cop's there on his own, taking a lot of harass from Zyra and Misfortune. Down very low under the turret, down to about 2 bars of HP. They chase him down, they hunt him down behind the turret, force him to flash. And at the end of his flash, Makati just walks out of the bush and swings a big sword and he's dead in one hit. And again, they take another top turret. So it's a massive amount of map control, another huge wave of experience that Cop just loses, and more bonus gold for MYM.
It basically shows that they initiate the lane swap, but aren't really prepared for how to play it out. They should have warded both situations and should have went defensively, because if you see the enemy lane push the wave that far to the tower, you basically should know there's going to be someone else and you're going to die. So it's something you have to avoid, basically, and they didn't. And
do you think that was the point where the game was pretty much decided?
For me, the decider was the one big dragon fight.
Right.
I mean, they were ahead for a big chunk, but this fight kind of showed that even their comp is superior, because Wukong just zoned everybody, and once he got low, Kyle ult on him, and the Misfortune ult in the back, and they kind of won every team fight, that is.
Do you think you can say that Curse kind of got outpicked for that, or do you think that was just based on their team play?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, as we discussed, this Arm Misfortune thing is very big right now.
Right.
And most teams come up with counters, and Meteor Makers had a very good counter, and they played it properly, and they won.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I was looking at the picks and bans, and we saw Misfortune as first pick for Meteor Makers, and then we saw Mumu locked in right away from St. Vicious, and right there it was kind of like a flag. Like, I mean, you can understand picking a Mumu, he's a really strong jungler, but you don't have that other champion you need for that combo to work.
The thing with the Mumu, though, he's still very strong. He doesn't have to have Misfortune just to work. So taking it away from Misfortune, taking it away from MYM is a big plus. And then, as it was their first pick, they still have 4 other champions that they can sit and decide on to work alongside a Mumu. So picking him first is not necessarily the downfall there of Curse, but as you say, MYM had a strategy to counter it. They executed it perfectly every time. And Curse just didn't know what to do against it. They just got picked apart bit by bit. MYM have obviously really been practicing that. And Jungle Kale is something I don't think America has seen ever, if at all. It's been very, very new here in EUS. I say I'm so fresh from trying to Millennium a couple times, Makati has now here. But other than that, I can't think of too many other people that have tried it. So that would have been something that Curse probably weren't expecting either. Yeah,
I'm surprised actually ran that Jungle Kill until Extreme Masters Cologne, and didn't really work out for them. But I mean, we all know he's a very strong jungler. The slow he has really helps set up any kind of damage off of his lane. And then he
Kale is a
she. I always get that, that's so hard to actually, keep in your mind. But, the slow mixed in with the damage, mixed in with your range, and not to mention the heal, you could speed up someone. It's really devastating. And then you have the turret diving with the ultimate. I mean, you can't really do much against it. Yeah, you can CC, but that was at 1.5 seconds of immunity at level 1. It's kind of really hard to go up against. But no, so we have Meteor Makers going to win the first game of today for them. We had Zubu Blaze win the first game. We have Gambit Gaming actually going to be playing against Curse next. Both of them, obviously losing their first games.
Yeah.
How, as a player, how do you kind of go into after a big loss like that? Because both teams lost pretty easily, or not pretty easily, but it was pretty one-sided.
Well, both teams are going to go quite differently into this. I think Gambit is, they had a very, like, the opponent where they thought they might lose, probably. So they are not down in any way, I guess. But Curse, I guess they suspected they would win this, and they didn't, and they will be quite nervous.
As we mentioned before in the pre-game lobby, Curse having a bit of fun, laughing and joking, making some jokes at each other's expense, making some jokes at Liquid's expense as well. They managed a couple of things in there. So they were very light-hearted, enjoying themselves, and rightly so. It's a big, long trip. You don't come all this way and then just sit around and bored. So yeah, they were having some fun. But lost in the first game, which, as we said, pretty sure they weren't expecting to lose. Gambit, the same thing. Gonna have to buck your ears up a bit. Go into this next game with a clear head, level head. Play a completely different game, try and get yourself that first win on the board, because it could decide the outcome of the rest of your game.
Yeah, I mean, Joe and Jot were saying that Curse, this is probably the one game that they thought they had in the bag pretty easily, because you have Gambit, then you have Zubu Blaze after that, and Dimitri Makers, kind of upsetting them in their eyes, and Curse's eyes. Yeah. And now they're up against Gambit and against Blaze. I mean, it's a really hard group.
It is.
It really is. And Dimitri Makers, like we were saying before, you can't really show all your cards since you have the qualifiers coming up. But still, right there, they just showed how dominant, how much they've been working. Their synergy was very well, like the timings you were mentioning on, ganking that solo laner each time with 3 people, taking the turret, then moving on to the next one was very like clockwork. And they got all those 3 outer turrets and just denied the vision, like we saw with Gambit versus Zubu, is that the ward control in the enemy jungler was insane.
Sure. They played very solid. Like, they got the advantage, they played it down properly, and no risks, no... Yeah, I don't know. They played perfect.
We saw the about 11:30, 11:45 point. There was that first dragon fight. Both teams showed up there, because this is the point that Gambit never got. This is the opportunity they never got to turn this fight around with their combo. Curse got in, and Mumu went in first, and Vicious charging in, landing that bandage toss, helping off his ultimate. But then no one could follow it up, because the Wukong ult was already going off, the Zyra ult was already down, and you couldn't get past that. Misfortune started channeling her ult as soon as the ultimate from Mumu wore off, and everyone from Curse was too low to fight and just had to back away. MYM followed it up, chased it down, cleaned them up, and took away a lot of those champions to give themselves a huge gold boost from just the dragon and all those kills. And from that point onwards, Curse never really looked like they were getting back into it.
Yep. Well, we do actually have an interview, I believe, with the winners for Dimitri Makers, and we're gonna hear a little bit into their minds of what kind of went on right there and what they're looking forward to for the rest of the event.
Okay, welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters. We're going to catch up now with MYM, Meet Your Makers, on home soil, have won their opening game. Congratulations, fantastic first game. Talk us through the games from the picks and bans. Were you confident?
Yeah, we were pretty confident. It's not a secret that North Americans are not at the very best shape right now, so yeah, we had to feel confident.
North Americans not in good shape.
Okej, ja teraz szybko przetłumaczę. Pytanie brzmiało, czy chłopaki mieli, że tak powiem sobie, pewność co do pików i banów. Konrad, odpowiesz jeszcze po polsku może.
Amerykanie, nie jest to tajemnicą, że nie należą ostatnio do najlepszych, więc gdybyśmy czuli się niepewnie przed tym meczem, to coś byłoby z nami nie tak, więc...
So, talk us through the game. You guys played really well together, early, mid, late game. Everything seemed to work for you.
Yeah, pretty much like you said. Everything ran according to the plan. They let us to do everything we wanted to do, so we didn't find any problems with achieving the goals we wanted to achieve. And later on, it was just all about making sure that if it comes to time coefficient, we have the good time. So we had to push a little bit harder and play not 100% safe. But yeah, it worked pretty well.
Tym razem Redeye spytał o przebieg gry. Jak widzieliście, praktycznie od samego początku Mym tutaj cisnął tak, że wyglądało, jakby wszystko szło według planu. I czy rzeczywiście tak było?
Tak, wszystko. Amerykanie pozwolili nam na dosyć wiele. Tak naprawdę spodziewaliśmy się mimo wszystko, że będą w jakiś tam sposób odpowiadać na to, co robimy, bo jakoś nie jest wielkim sekretem to, w jaki sposób gramy. Ale pozwolili nam na wiele i potem to już była bardziej kwestia czasu, żeby upewnić się, że mamy dosyć szybkiego wina. Ze względu na to, że jeżeli może dojść do takiej sytuacji, że o wyjściu z grupy będą decydowały po prostu czasy i drużyna, która będzie zwyciężała, najszybciej wyjdzie z tej grupy, więc musieliśmy mieć to w głowie i troszeczkę już tak nie grać 100% bezpiecznie, tylko troszeczkę tam podejwować i poświęcić czasami chyba akurat mnie w tym jednym wypadku i i skończyć tę grę.
Ale opłaciło się zdecydowanie.
Okay, so in terms of playing here in Katowice, in this amazing stadium in front of, fantastic Polish fans, are you able to put it into words what this means for you guys?
I'll just say that last year we managed to go to some events around the world, not just Europe. And I must say, and I'm like 100% honest, that watching something like this is pretty amazing for me. It's taking breath away. So big shout outs to you guys. It was a dream to play in front of such an audience.
Chyba nie muszę tłumaczyć. Pytanie brzmiało, jak się czuje Konrad i Mym, grając przed polską widownią w Katowicach.
Dokładnie tak. Tak jak powiedziałem, przez jakiś tam ostatni rok udało się liznąć trochę tego sportu, na kilka turniejów pojechać gdzieś tam po Europie czy po świecie, ale kiedy dzisiaj mieliśmy okazję zobaczyć, co się tutaj dzieje w Spodku, ile osób przyszło, jak to wszystko wygląda, to po prostu dech w piersiach zapierał, trochę aż się stres pojawił i to tak naprawdę mówiąc, to właśnie myślę, że to jest marzenie każdego progamera, żeby właśnie stanąć, tak jak ja teraz tu stoję przed taką właśnie publicznością, za co wam bardzo gorąco dziękuję.
I have one final question. Curse, revenge, WCG.
Yeah, that's true. I wanted to refer to some YouTube video made by Signed. And I wanted to officially apologize him that I forgot to bring him the white flag because now it belongs to him.
To jeszcze pytanie brzmiało jakieś takie tutaj zaszłości, że tak powiem, może przybliżysz jeszcze?
No, Sainz był bardzo dumny w 2011 roku, kiedy wygrali z nami WCG, to było w finale. I gdzieś tam się pojawiło podczas jednego z talk showów wypowiedź Sainta, taka dosyć stawiająca w nas w niekorzystnym świetle. Było generalnie o tym, jak słabi byliśmy, jak tam Polakom pokazali i Polakom pokazali białe flagi, więc w tym momencie po prostu przeprosiłem Sainta, że zapomniałem mu przynieść na dzisiaj tą białą flagę, bo teraz ona należy do jego.
Owned.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, one more time for MYM.
Ej, 3-4 Demacja, my z Konradem krzykniemy Demacja, a wy robicie falę. 3-4, Demacja!
Fantastic. Fantastic indeed. Okay, so that's MYM. They've won their opening game. Let's see how we go through the next set of games. Don't go too far away. After the commercial break, we'll be back with more from League of Legends.
Jeszcze runda